Did Ava honestly think she could stand over Sonny's hospital bed, watching his life slip away, and not have his entire empire breathing down her neck before his heart monitor even flatlined? If you ask me, ladies, we are standing on the absolute precipice of a storyline that could shatter the very foundation of this show. We have watched Sonny survive rival mobsters, car bombs, betrayals, and even amnesia in a snowy, quiet town. But what happens when the enemy is not a bullet, but his own heart? I am talking about a sudden, massive, devastating heart attack that sends the legendary boss crashing to the floor, requiring immediate life or death emergency surgery. This is where the domino effect truly begins, and the first domino to fall is the delicate, dangerous balance of power regarding little Avery. We all know that the custody battle over that precious little girl has never truly been resolved. It is a simmering volcano just waiting for the right amount of pressure to erupt. If Sonny is incapacitated, hooked up to ventilators, and fighting for every single breath in the intensive care unit, Ava is not going to just sit in the waiting room wringing her hands in genuine sorrow. No, guys, her mind is going to start calculating the odds before the surgeons even make their first incision. Ava has always operated with a hidden agenda, and a medical crisis of this magnitude presents the ultimate twisted opportunity for her to seize total control. Imagine the scene. The hospital corridors are echoing with panic, the doctors are rushing, and there stands Ava, realizing that if Sonny is deemed medically unfit or worse, if he does not survive the night, she becomes the sole, uncontested guardian of Avery. The sheer temptation of that absolute power would be intoxicating for a woman who has spent years fighting tooth and nail for her daughter. But this is where the theory takes a dark, chilling turn into a full-blown hospital mystery. Let us say the surgery is a success. The doctors manage to stabilize Sonny, and they tell the family that he just needs rest and time to recover. Then, inexplicably, in the dead of night, his vitals begin to crash. His blood pressure plummets, the alarms blare, and the medical staff are completely baffled by the sudden, life-threatening complication. If you ask me, this is exactly when the whispers of foul play would begin to echo through the sterile halls. Could Ava have slipped into his room during a shift change? Could she have tampered with his intravenous drip or swapped his life-saving medication for something lethal? It is a terrifying thought, but we have to remember the vicious cycle of destruction that follows Ava wherever she goes. Whenever she feels cornered or sees a path to absolute victory, she is capable of crossing lines that most people would never even approach. She might even form an unholy alliance with a disgruntled nurse or a compromised doctor, paying them off to ensure that Sonny never wakes up to challenge her for custody again. However, Ava's manipulative scheme would immediately trigger a massive, unstoppable counterattack. The second domino to fall would be Carly. You know as well as I do that Carly's instincts regarding Ava are razor sharp and fueled by decades of pure, unadulterated hatred. Carly would storm through those hospital doors like a hurricane, taking one look at Ava's perfectly composed face and instantly knowing that something is deeply wrong. Carly does not need medical evidence to know when a rat is in the room. She can smell the deception radiating off Ava from a mile away. Carly would immediately position herself as the fierce, unyielding protector of the Legacy family. She would plant herself outside Sonny's door, refusing to let Ava anywhere near him. The waiting room confrontations between these two women would be legendary, filled with venomous whispers and veiled threats. Carly would look Ava dead in the eye and promise her that if a single hair on Sonny's head was harmed unnaturally, she would spend the rest of her life dismantling Ava piece by piece. But Carly's loud, explosive rage is only the distraction. The real danger to Ava is the silent, lethal shadow moving behind the scenes. That brings us to the third domino, Jason. When Jason finds out that his brother, his best friend, the man he has bled for time and time again, is fighting for his life under suspicious circumstances, he does not scream. He does not cry. He goes to work. Jason would turn that hospital inside out. He would bypass the police entirely, hacking into the hospital's security cameras, interrogating the nursing staff in empty stairwells, and tracking every single person who stepped foot on that floor. If Ava left even the microscopic trace of a footprint in that manipulative scheme, Jason would find it. Imagine the sheer, suffocating tension as Ava tries to play the role of the grieving, concerned mother, all while knowing that Jason's icy blue eyes are tracking her every single move. She would be looking over her shoulder every time she walked to her car, jumping at every shadow, realizing that she has awakened a sleeping dragon that will not rest until the truth is uncovered. Meanwhile, the fourth domino falls right into the lap of Michael. While Carly is guarding the door and Jason is hunting for clues, Michael would be launching a full-scale legal and corporate war. Michael knows that Ava's endgame is Avery, and he would not let his little sister be used as a pawn in Ava's sick game of chess. Michael would have Diane drafting emergency injunctions, freezing assets, and filing motions to ensure that Ava cannot make a single move regarding Avery's living situation or Sonny's medical directives without a judge's explicit approval. Michael has grown into a formidable force, and he would use every ounce of the family's wealth and influence to build an impenetrable fortress around Avery. He would systematically cut off Ava's resources, isolating her and forcing her to fight a war on 3 different fronts: Carly's emotional assault, Jason's physical intimidation, and Michael's legal strangulation. Ava would quickly realize that taking down the head of the family does not scatter the family. It unites them into a ruthless, unbreakable phalanx. As the days turn into weeks, the hospital mystery would reach a fever pitch. The police would inevitably get involved, perhaps tipped off by a suspicious toxicology report that shows a lethal, unprescribed substance in Sonny's bloodstream. The detectives would start asking uncomfortable questions, pulling hospital logs, and suddenly, Ava's carefully constructed alibi would begin to crack. She would try to deflect, perhaps pointing the finger at one of Sonny's many mob rivals, claiming that someone from the underworld infiltrated the hospital to finish the job. But guys, the walls would be closing in on her. The psychological toll of maintaining this massive lie while being hunted by Jason and investigated by the police would push Ava to the absolute brink of a breakdown. We would see her pacing in her gallery, clutching a glass of martinis, talking to herself as the paranoia sets in. She thought she was executing a flawless checkmate, but instead, she walked straight into a trap of her own making. And what if, by some miraculous twist of fate, Sonny begins to wake up? Imagine the sheer, unadulterated terror freezing the blood in Ava's veins when she hears that Sonny is slowly regaining consciousness. If he opens his eyes, what will he remember? Did he see her face hovering over him in the darkness? Did he hear her whispering her dark intentions while he was paralyzed in that hospital bed? The suspense of waiting for Sonny to speak his first words would be agonizing, not just for the family, but for the viewers sitting on the edge of their seats. Of course, because this is the ultimate soap opera drama, we have to consider the ultimate twist. What if Ava is actually innocent of the tampering? What if she fully intended to use the heart attack to her advantage in the custody battle, but someone else entirely slipped into that room to poison Sonny? What if she is being perfectly framed by a hidden enemy who knows that she makes the perfect, believable scapegoat? Ava would find herself in the terrifying position of having to prove her innocence to people who already believe she is a monster, fighting to clear her name while the real culprit watches from the shadows, laughing at the chaos they have unleashed. If this theory comes to pass, it would undoubtedly be one of the most heart-stopping, emotionally devastating storylines we have seen in years. We absolutely do not want to lose Sonny. He is a legend, the beating heart of the show, and his permanent absence would leave a void that could never truly be filled. But pushing him to the absolute edge of death, stripping away his power, and forcing his family to fight a desperate, multi-front war to save him and protect his legacy, that is the kind of storytelling that keeps us glued to our screens for decades. The stakes have never been higher, and the players have never been more desperate. Every single glance in that hospital waiting room would be loaded with suspicion. Every medical update would be a matter of life and death, and every move Ava makes could be her absolute last. If the truth finally comes to light in those sterile, echoing hospital hallways, will Ava be the one walking out in handcuffs, completely destroyed by her own ambition, or will a new, terrifying mastermind step out of the shadows to finish the job?